Hey, folks, this podcast is brought to you by King Arthur Capital Group. Fund your fight camp, showing fighters how to leverage credit and capital so they can treat their career like a business. Very excited to share that information with as many people in the combat sports world as possible. If you're looking to make your career work a little smarter for you in your life, hit up King Arthur Capital Group on Instagram at King Arthur Capital Group and check out Fight Club Crate, mystery fight gear, knockout prices, undisputed value. Combat sports boxes delivered monthly. Use my promo code TAPTHAT15 at Fight Club Crate for 15% off of your first purchase. Follow those folks on Instagram at Fight Club Crate. Very cool stuff. And finally, a winner of a gift idea for the combat connoisseur in your life. And what is up, everybody? This is Brady Grove bringing you another interlude episode of the Tap That Podcast. Follow me on Twitter at RotoBrady. Follow me on Instagram at RotoBrady MMA. And follow the podcast at Tap That MMA Podcast on YouTube and Spotify. And with me this evening, he's been on this podcast several times. You've seen me on the College Football Experience previewing Kentucky Wildcats football. He is the host of the College Football Experience, the College Basketball Experience, the UFL Gambling Podcast. Give it up for Colby Dant. Colby, so glad to have you back. How's it going, man?
Good to see you again, brother. And life's good. It's this is kind of the more relaxing part of the year for me. Life's good, man. How you been, man?
Oh, good. We're moving again soon, just to a different part of Northern Kentucky.
So not doing good, because I think moving is one of the worst things. Even if you're moving to a better place, it's great when you get there, but the actual process of moving, I think, is one of the worst things you can do on planet Earth.
I mean, and you've had to cover a long distance in your moves, and like ours have been short, but we've had a lot of moves, and it's like I love the house we're in now. It's a 10-minute walk to Great American Ballpark across the river.
Nice.
And it's in like a really like historic area of Northern Kentucky. But the thing is, we have our second kid on the way, and we're gonna need more room. That's it. So it kind of ends the discussion there. It made it a lot easier of a decision making process.
Well, congratulations on that, though, man. And
thanks, man.
Yeah, that's fantastic there.
It's funny because you said like this is the more relaxing time of the year for you, but it's like remember when there used to be a relaxing time in the college sports off season that used to exist. After the NCAA tournament, it was like I've never been more stressed about Kentucky basketball than the few weeks after the NCAA tournament ended.
Oh, 100%. There are like, I mean, look, I've been doing my show since 2000, I think late 2016, so about 10 years, almost nine and a half. And back then you could really actually like vacation in the off season without, I would say like right around COVID is when it all, like once the summer that we got the Big Ten, no, the summer that we got Oklahoma and Texas joining the SEC was like an hors d'oeuvre for everything else, because after that was, right around then was the transfer portal. And then obviously the Big Ten taking the whole country. And then the Big 12 going for scraps, the ACC going for scraps, and then just it's just different. It's just different since then. Some good, some bad, but yeah, it's been quite the difference within that time frame.
Dude, I can't imagine the life of a college basketball coach, whether you are low major or you're a Duke, Kentucky, Kansas. I don't care. I can't imagine what your life is like right now, where it's like, and postseason's over, and all right, portal's been open 3 days. You don't have your team yet. You're absolutely screwed. Like, and you're talking about so much money, and everybody, of course, like 20 schools are calling all the same kid. Like, and it's like, all right, let's see if we got that put together. And then a week later, you have 5 players, and everybody's freaking the hell out about it.
Well, and you don't even get like a true. I mean, look, I'm not a fan of the a lot of the agents, but you have like your Uncle Billy making the calls for you. Who knows if he's had a few cocktails? Like you're like, why am I dealing with this guy? I think the Jaden Rashada one would be one of the ones that stood out as one of the most ridiculous, where I think you were dealing with family people that. Nico at Tennessee. I think
Nico was the one I was gonna say, because like that was a very public, like that wasn't that wasn't a super common thing at the time. It seems like I'm sure it's probably a lot more common now, even just behind closed doors. But with Nico, it was like it was clearly his dad who was in his ear, who was telling him to basically extort Tennessee before the playoffs. And then look, you dipshit, you cost him $1.4 million by the beginning of the season. So sometimes it is better to tell your family to keep their distance on that stuff.
Yeah, I mean, you feel sorry because for the kid, because honestly, if I was 18 and had that much money, I would definitely be hitting up family members for guidance, probably. You know what I mean? Like you're not. This is what needs to be taught in high school. Is like you need, if you're this good, you need to get like real representation. So I can't even blame the kid that much. Now the dad, I thought, couldn't have handled that any worse.
I mean, the crazy thing about all the money for like the kids is you knew what was partly going to happen, and it is these guys start making millions and whatever, and so like the any sort of decor that there was for like the etiquette or how you talk about college players, how you treat them, completely goes out the window because what 99.9% of the people are going to say is like, they're getting paid now. I don't care. And it's like, well, okay, well, first of all, if that's your logic, if they're getting paid more, so you don't care about I don't know, like anything. And you don't give credit to the fact that, dude, I know it's millions of dollars, and I know we'd all love to get millions of dollars from people begging us to play a sport for them. That'd be amazing. At the same time, the kid's 17, dude. I don't believe anything he says, like, until it happens. Like, this is a very tough decision-making process. It's just that's a very strange thing. And like they're not college students anymore, and I don't mean even academically because I don't really care academically. What I mean is like these kids aren't necessarily like living in dorms, going to like hopping around to fraternity parties on weekends. Like they're in loft condos and in the club and stuff. They can afford it, and they live. So it's hard to even think about them as like they represent my school.
Yeah, I mean that's fair, and I mean to me, we have yet to see this. It's going to. I mean, we've seen it. We know they were paying players before, but it's a little different when you don't have to be discreet about it from the school's sake, but even more so from the player's sake. I can tell you this: just when you pull up on some of these universities to football practice or something, you do see some great cars. And before, I felt like they would try to hide that if they had that. And we haven't seen the ramifications yet. I'm always reminded. I'm good friends with a buddy that made over $1 million rapping when he was very young in his life. I think he was like 20 or 21 when he signed a big deal with Virgin Records, and he's in his 40s now, and he reminds me. Well, not necessarily remind, just over drinks or something. We'll talk, and he's like, I really wish they would have given me that money in my 30s instead of 20 years old, because he's like, I was flying a girlfriend over from fucking France. I was like, just doing crazy, stupid stuff, spending like a moron. I am worried that might be something we might be seeing in say 6 or 7 years of, man, this dude once had $10 million in his college career and he could be broke, but hopefully not. And look, I just because I'm saying I'm worried doesn't mean I'm against it, because in any other realm of life, if you're that talented, if you're a software engineer and you do that, you know what I mean, then guess what? You're still rich and it's on you to figure that out. So they should get the money, in my opinion. But it is just crazy to think that we finally got here just because they were getting paid under the table before. I personally, I don't know your stance on this, but like, I think it needed to be above the table. I've heard some terrible stories from people behind the scenes of, families not getting the money or their electricity getting cut off by the biggest booster that's paying for their electricity. So like shit like that, I think it's better above the table. And I do think people are delusional to think that players weren't getting paid for a very long time.
I mean, I think almost everything that is that people, there's no reason for people to want to not exist. Because, like, the thing is, this is America. I would never tell anybody that they can't get paid if somebody would like to pay them to do something. So I fall back on like, I'm sorry, I thought this was an America stance. Because it's like, dude, if someone wants to pay them and sell their jerseys, and I mean, it's gone way beyond that, is the thing.
Yeah.
But that was the idea behind it at the time. We didn't think it would be here so quick, and we also didn't think like it happened on like day two. Like it certainly wasn't to this level, but what you thought would happen, we've talked about this a couple of times where like it would be like a player on day two of NIL back however many years ago, you'd hear, oh, and like this guy just said he's going to be doing an autograph signing at a local liquor store. That's crazy. Oh, and this guy's selling t-shirts. Okay. And then it was like, this guy's getting paid $3 million to come here from Africa. And it's like, whoa, like that happened so fast. And so I hope it doesn't, result in broke part two, the 30 for 30. But I know for damn well sure that if I had millions when I was that age, even not being a basketball player, I wouldn't have that money anymore.
100%, dude. If you, I could tell you that right now. If you gave me, if you gave me $10 million or $4 million when I was 18 years old, I highly doubt I would have any of that money left.
I highly doubt I would be alive to see that money
Yes,
some of it survive.
Now, I think people would have enjoyed some of my stories because I think you would have had another Ric Flair on the planet. But anyway,
so it is a weird thing, and but yeah, we can't make it go away. And like the thing is, over the table, I mean, even though it's a fictional account, like if people haven't seen Blue Chips, that's a pretty good example of everything that can go wrong with a program, like when things are all run under the table. And it's like, why do something under the table and worse when it's something that like on the rules of doesn't affect anybody else? This should be like a freedom you have to accept this money for this service even. It was always going to take people a while to get used to. And the thing is, when people are like, NIL ruined everything, and I'm like, well, look, man, I don't think everything is ruined, and I don't think I think NIL is a symptom, not a cause of any problems that are there. But the thing is, it's not going away. And I've always been of the mindset that if something is absolutely not going to go away, try to make your best peace with it to accept it. No one likes people that go into the future ungracefully where you can avoid it if necessary. It's also, it's a happier way to live your life. But guess what, man? They're paying these kids $3 million to play college basketball. Good luck taking that away tomorrow and setting that rule.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, it's I just think like I laugh sometimes when I hear like how people are like, wow, the game was so. Look, I'm a college sports guy through and through. I think it's the best form of sport that we've had. Name the sport for the most part. But at the same time, like I know that it wasn't as pure as some might think it was. So, but at the same time, I still think within that there was that purity, that best fan bases, best history, and hopefully they can preserve all these things, and hopefully the worst of this is not at the chagrin of really threatening the overall sports for all these universities. So I think we're good though. I think we're okay.
And here's my biggest evidence for why I think NIL over the long term is still, because there was a lot of talk this tournament about the effect on mid majors and is Cinderella dead and all that bullshit. And the thing is, the reason I will remain steadfast in thinking that the NIL and the transfer portal is good for the mid majors and for college basketball as a whole is because the powers love to shit on it publicly so much. I'm sure Nick Saban went to Congress because he's very concerned about the overall health of college football. Get the hell out of here. The propaganda, dude, the anti-Miami, Ohio propaganda campaign that was going on before the NCAA tournament was, and the
criminal, man.
It was the same thing with JMU. It was this perpetuated effort by like ESPN and the same thing too with like it was less about Miami and it was more about getting SEC teams in, because I remember when Kentucky this season lost that game at Auburn. last call at the game aside. And by the way, what a coincidence that that call came at a time when they had talked all week about Auburn needing this win to become eligible. But the whole the pro SEC campaign that was going on, and Auburn, right there on the bubble, and it's like, dude, what the hell are you talking about? The crazy thing is, what I was afraid of, and what I'm afraid of now, is the quality of the NIT and secondary tournaments outside of the NCAA tournament. Because for the last few years, the NIT's been sick for one key reason. They tried to cater to the powerful schools, but what happened was all the powerful schools started opting out of the NIT. So you were
going for the crown. They either
yeah.
went for the crown, or their contract, or their conference was involved with that contract.
Indiana refused both. Indiana decided they didn't want to play a postseason.
Florida State, who's broke. Florida State, who's broke, refused both. What am I missing here?
I mean, the thing is, what I've realized from watching, because I don't know how up to date you are on like the Kentucky athletic director situation, how Mitch Barnhart was retiring and took that phony ass $1 million retirement job from the school that they just handed him, no questions asked.
Didn't the governor call that out? I believe,
yeah,
right?
Yeah, which is kind of embarrassing for an athletic department, I would say. But they said like they couldn't tell you what the job description was. They couldn't properly identify the fund that the money was coming out of. And so obviously when people criticize Mark Pope this offseason for the talent he was able to get for Kentucky, I was always saying like, dude, I think there's a lot of information we don't have about this. I don't know if it's as simple as kids don't like Mark Pope. I think that there's plenty of examples you can give to the contrary of that. But when you have this weird shit going on with this boss hog ass scandal going on with your athletic department, and then people will visit your school and they'll be like, yeah, I might want to go there. And then they leave and they're like, nope. It's like, dude, so how much of that in these schools has got to be going on behind the scenes that it's like, well, they seem to have a lot of money, but no one wants to take it.
Yeah, that's in one way, dude. In one way, this is the most captivating time that I can ever recall. Just because, pick the poison what you want to use here. But each school is choosing their own ways to run things. Some of it is blowing up right in their faces. Some of them it's not, and I find it all very, very captivating. Like Indiana, they only had a few guys drafted this past year, right? Even though the lead up to the playoffs where they don't have any pros on their team besides Mendoza, but this is a football thing. But I'm saying you could do this with Michigan in basketball or so on. So like Duke's going young in basketball. That's their theory. They think it will work. Other teams have different approaches. Michigan hit the portal for their whole team pretty much, and I find that alone is so fascinating to me. Like just which school's approach, on how we're going to handle this, and which school is going to do this and this and this, and even down to the littlest thing. Like we just mentioned, Florida State turning down the crown and the NIT, where I'm like, that school is broke. Why would you? I would make the players do this. What are we talking about? Like I would. This is an opportunity. We're on TV more, right? Because the Crown is on Fox Sports 1, the NIT is on ESPN, and we're trying to build brand value right now to try. If maybe there's a split off, maybe there's not. But either way, we need to. Your school is value. Why would you not? Your kids at that age, and we need money. We're gonna make money on this. But I find it all really interesting. I really do. Whether it's Texas Tech and Cody Campbell down to the smallest schools that are deciding to go back to D3, like St. Francis, PA, or something.
And I mean, you've seen a whole new generation of great coaches rise up in this era. I mean, you look at even what Brian Hodgson has accomplished in the time at Providence, where in this offseason they immediately get 3 eyebrow raising dudes. And I what was it? What were you what were you on 2 points ago about
just the I find it captivating what they can choose. Like take UCLA football right now. they hire Chesney. Chesney brings a bunch of his JMU guys. It's kind of reminds me of something similar with Signetti, right? But they also threw some money in there. They dropped that lawsuit trying to get it to go to the SoFi Stadium, or trying to get out of the Rose Bowl one. And I find it very captivating what they're doing. Their approach on building their team too, I think, is very different than say just going out and getting. There's certain football schools that just say, hey, let's just go get everybody, like Lane Kiffin at LSU. Now, sure, LSU has the money, but I don't know that it will work. I guess you could argue, you're a Kentucky fan, you could argue that what Lane Kiffin's doing in football is very similar to what Kentucky just did in basketball.
All right. So what I was going to say before was about the college basketball crown and how, like, look, dude, West Virginia played in it. They won. And they're killing it in this portal right now. And you have to think that part of that is like some momentum you carry from winning your last game of the season.
And who won it last year? Nebraska. And they had a great season. That is somewhat of building culture. And that's also just, I can't get over this. Brady, people saying I don't want to play sport is crazy to me. Cause like when you're 18 to 22, as someone in their 40s, I would play. I miss that so much in my life. You know what I mean? I miss playing football or basketball with my buddies. Whether it's with my buddies on a pickup game or whether it was organized, and they're taking it for granted. And to me, it's just crazy. That is something I did not see 20 years ago coming. I thought paying players was eventually going to happen, but I did not see like, hey, no thanks on playing basketball in Las Vegas or in Indianapolis at Hinkle Fieldhouse, one of the most legendary venues, where we have a chance to win a championship and prove that we should have been in the NCAA tournament. I don't know where the ideology comes from in that, to tell you the truth.
And I mean, for Indiana, it's so crazy because it's like you're choosing to not even be associated with the month of March. Like not even like in a time where because they've done well in this portal, but here, you know what? To take this to another spot here, why this is also such an attention-getting period of time, and this has been almost like shamefully like a Candy Crush period for me. I've never played that game, but from the way people have described it, what I'm doing on my phone when I'm looking at transfer portal news is probably the same effect. Ding dong ding 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 ding, like just down every single thing is a different transfer portal announcement. And dude, all of this bullshit about the money people spend and the rankings of portal classes and recruiting classes. I'm like, dude, how many years of examples do you need on why these guesses about who has the best portal class or the best recruiting class or anything is just absolute guesswork? How wrong do you have to be about so much? Dude, Kentucky fans will say, okay, because that's a whole other thing. Like Kentucky fans this offseason, like some of them, you get this with any big fan base, but there's a portion of your fan base that is just soft as tissue. And I mean the people that are like belly aching and boo-hooing like at every little thing and pretending like these things that people say about these portal classes mean shit going into it. Like I think we have enough example of not knowing. But Kentucky fans are seriously bitching that people's too early top 25s that they put out in the month of May it's like, oh look, we're gonna start the season unranked. I'm like, who cares? It's a ranking and it doesn't mean anything. What happens is the season starts, you start playing games. Now you got to win a lot of those. That's the biggest thing. That's the only thing that matters.
100%. I mean, once again, I keep going back to football, but I find it relevant for this topic. Indiana did not have a top 25 portal class. I don't think any of their years with Signetti. They just won the championship. These people, and that bothers me NFL draft wise.
Wait, dude, when the draft anything is just guesswork.
But okay, SEC fans rejoiced, and this is where I've gotten into like arguments with people where you had 84 or 86 players drafted this year, most ever. And I did a deep dive and said, well, only 68 of them actually spent majority of their time at the SEC school. Most of them were 1 year rentals, or not most, but the other 22 were one year rentals. And I'm like, that both can't be right here. Okay, if the SEC is the most talented football conference, which I guess based on last year's season, they had the most NFL players, right? For that season. But the thing is that all those guys transferred, specifically a big pipeline throughout the ACC. And I was like, wait a second here. So either the recruiting rankings are a lie, or either the ACC is a lot better than the national perception. Because why the fuck would they go get all their players there? And here's another thing: is why would their numbers get better if they went to the SEC if it's a harder conference? So something has to be right in the middle there. I'm not saying the SEC sucks. I'm just saying something doesn't add up.
Dude, Kentucky fans were doing this with the JMU power forward that we landed in the portal, who shot 40% from three. I think it's McDaniel is his last name. It's like Justin.
No, McBride. Justin McBride.
McBride.
Yeah.
So Kentucky fans were saying like, he'll get bullied in the SEC. Like, we need to be getting guys from this place and this place. And it's like, dude, I can't do anything for you if you never got past 2003 when your wife left you. Like, I can't get. Like, I can't bring you past that point. You got to do it yourself. This is not 2003 where Kentucky can run the table in the SEC. This isn't 2003 where a player from College of Charleston is actually different than a guy that plays in Missouri's rotation. There's seriously, for guys that are good, there's so much talent in basketball throughout the Division I level.
Oh, especially when you add in the European players too.
And I make the case at all these periods of time, and people get upset with me but it's like, dude, I promise you could put together a Final Four competitive team with transfers from the JUCO to D2 level. I really think you could in the right combination of people.
Well, shit, McCollum got Elite Eight at Iowa. That was basically a D2 team, right?
Pretty much.
Ben McCollum, I feel like 5 or 6 of those guys were D2 players that played for him. And then they brought in one of their rivals, I think. So you probably had 72 guys or something right around there on that roster. So you would not be inaccurate, I would say.
So that, and it's, okay, so to the University of Arkansas. First of all, I love the University of Arkansas's basketball program. As a Kentucky fan, it's given us so many great and I'm trying to make nice points without also sounding like I'm talking shit. But those games between Kentucky and Arkansas, especially at Bud Walton Arena, those are electric games. We have 30 years of great games with Arkansas, dating back.
Fan base.
Yeah.
Fan base.
I mean, rabid fan bases, like in football, that dude bit that dude's nose off outside the stadium. And so with John Calipari, and I love John Calipari to this day, I will always love John Calipari. But I've seen this offseason, Arkansas fans being really excited about their recruiting class, and watching the high school highlights of the different guys they have coming in. I'm like, dude, I'm glad you guys are happy, and I'm sure that you guys will have a very good team. But I promise you, over enough period of time, you will find yourself not enjoying seeing these recruiting class rankings, because that's how it gets for long enough with John Calipari, where he needs some perfect combinations, and
Yes.
sometimes he gets them, is the thing. But, if you go long enough without getting the thing that you wanted, eventually you will start to really hate hearing about recruiting class rankings.
The sport's changed, I mean, I think the biggest example of this right now, Arkansas will probably be number 2. I think Duke is number 1 right now. And if you look at the way they've lost, I want to say the way they've lost their last 5 or 6 games going back 2 years, is they are incredibly talented, incredibly young, and they have big breakdowns bringing up the ball, or with big leads. They've all had big leads in every one of their games, whether it was the Carolina game earlier this year, where Tremble hits the 3, or the NCAA tournament against Houston last year, the NCAA tournament against UConn this year. And I think there's one thing to circle: youth. You can have the most talented team, but you're going up against some other teams that are 24, 25 years old, or 23 years old, and most of your team is around 19. I fully expect that trend to continue to happen. Now, I'm sure there'll be outliers and they'll have breakthrough seasons. Duke made the Final Four 2 years ago, but I still think that you're asking to do something really hard. In my opinion, that's where John Shire has been a little bit. I think he needs to get a veteran point guard to mix with the talent he has, and I think that would probably be the blueprint to get to the championship. Maybe another veteran wing or something like that, but you definitely want to try to infuse both in this day and age because getting all these Europeans in the game, it's even older now. Like the past 12 months, I knew this. I went to basketball media days this past year, and I almost forgot about the European thing, right? And I'm at media days, and I'm just like, I'm talking like I went to media days. I went to like from the big schools to like the A10 and stuff, and I'm like, every team's got like 2 or 3 of these guys, and then I'm not even familiar with some of them. I'm a basketball nut, but I'm like, this dude averaged 43 points a game in some league in Poland, right? And I'm like, is this guy like, do I need to be hyping this guy up? Right. And then it turns out like the league was like terrible. And it's like the guy he doesn't even get on the court. In some situations they do, some they don't. But I can tell you this, that all that European talent coming in, or not only all European, there's African, there's Australian, New Zealand, and so on and so on. It is definitely the sport you want. To me, if you're telling me right now I'm in charge of Kentucky or whoever, we can go get some young guys with a ton of talent, but we need some old people.
So Kentucky signed Usman Ndiaye out of Senegal. He's a 6'11" like power forward who has like on his highlights some crazy catch and shoot things. And you just know that he's the kind of player that at times you'll be like, I love that guy so much, and then at other times you'll want to like choke him, like because of the shots you know he'll take. But he's 22, has spent 3 years in an Italian pro league. But yeah, with Europeans, it's what would drive me crazy about like the NBA draft is how teams would just like buy a scratch off lottery ticket with their lottery pick
Yeah.
and take a guy like Georgios Papagiannis, one of my like favorite examples of this. It was like because I was writing an article about like it was like draft grades for the site I was with at the time, and I was like, did the Kings took a guy that averaged 2 points and 1 rebound per game last year in this European league. By comparison, last year he only averaged 2.3 points and 1 rebound more than I did in that Italian league. So like that is a very short gap, but that's a lot to spend a pick on for like you don't know what any of that means. And there's all these Europeans that there's so many guys available. You don't even know who's available right now. There might be a guy in Turkey we weren't even aware of who's 7'3" and dribbles like Derrick Rose. You just didn't hear he was available yet. So it really is rewarding. It's certainly rewarding the programs that are putting in the work and doing their homework and have a good eye for talent.
100%, man. I go back to like, I mean, I remember when the Knicks draft. Remember when Vince Carter had that dunk in the USA games? He like dunked all over this big man named Frederick Weiss. The Knicks took him with the 15th pick in the draft, if memory serves me correct. And we thought we were gonna, I was a Knicks fan, or at the time, like Bullets and Knicks were my teams, and like I was like, oh, we're gonna get Ron Artest, New York City kid, right? Went to St. John's. This is perfect. We took Frederick Weiss over Ron Artest, who went with the next pick. We also could have got Karolinko, who went like in the second round, I think, or late in the first. But that's exactly part of this is for me at least. I know we're kind of all over the place, but like previewing these teams, I have no idea about some of these guys, and it's already hard enough with the portal, but then you add the fusion of the infusion of European players, and you're like, whoa! But I can tell you this: the teams that have the older rosters, in my opinion, they did the most damage in the NCAA in college basketball last year. Like, look at it conference wise. I feel like the older rosters won more than the inexperienced rosters, and I think that's a trend everyone should chase.
And recruiting high schoolers is so weird right now because Mikael Brown Jr. for Louisville. I remember even though, Kentucky made the comeback in that game, when Louisville was at its best in that game, and Mikael Brown Jr. was on fire, it was like, dude, with this guy playing like this, Louisville can go far. Like it was very clear watching that. I can be very objective and honest about like the most hated rival. Like that's the only way to be. You know, I don't like delusional fans that are like Louisville sucks. Like no, they don't, man. They're good. They're a very competitive program. But still, that's. But with him, it was like Jesus Christ, that is a dangerous team. But at some point, some players in this era just decide that they're done playing. Like it happened with Calipari before this era. Like I remember this happening with Shaden Sharp, like and being promised that all year. And it's like that guy has no intention to ever step on the court. And whatever you think about their injuries, I don't care. You know, Jaden Quaintance this year for Kentucky. I am not a doctor and I'm not Jaden Quaintance. I don't know how bad his knee hurt. But what I know is he had no incentive to step on the floor. That's all I've ever said. I don't know how knees work. So if you keep, you know, if you go out and you start playing and you're saying your knees swelled up, I'm really not in a position to question that and call the kid a liar. What I can say is that he had no incentive to step back on the floor. And with Braden Hawthorne decided to stay at Kentucky. But right now, it's like, how do you recruit a high schooler? Like, all right, dude, like, you're either going to start immediately if you're really good, or you can redshirt and then transfer in a year. Like, that is just like the options you're looking. It's really hard to like recruit guys and be like, all right, but you'll be here another year from now, right? Like, it just says who?
Well, and in some situations, you cut the players too. Some situations, the coach is like, yeah, you weren't good enough. You got to get the fuck out of here. You know, so it goes both ways too, man. So it's crazy though.
It's just like if you're someone who loves to think about college basketball, if you're a college basketball philosopher, there has never been a more fascinating time to live. You got point shaving scandals too. There's more of that. I love the 40s and 50s, crimes like that. So love that.
Well, and once again, by the way, that's another one where I find myself in far too many arguments of these people that are naive enough to think this wasn't existing before the FBI and gambling became the FBI was able to shut down because the gambling is legal. They just think, no, we haven't had anybody on the take since, I don't know, Loyola Chicago in 1957 or some shit like that. Like it's people are very naive, I think, just to think that if anything, to me, that's the system working.
I mean, like it's the thing is, it's what I hate to think about like same with like rap history is like I hate what I'll never know and what we'll all never know. Like I would love to have information about like what is the craziest stuff that's because the reason like Headache Smith got caught in the 90s was like they just got way too crazy with it. But like how many people didn't? Like how many people didn't get too crazy with it and really just like had to like fix a game to like pay off a debt and then they called it after that and they never called it, Like that has to have happened some, right? It has to have.
Yeah, no, 100%. 100%. 100%.
Like conspiracy theories, like when it's like, look, like we know as much as we know about stuff, but that means the stuff that we don't know, it can only get crazier. Like you're not going to find out that it's actually less crazy than you already know. So there's only going to be like things that if you and I'm sure like even now, like where it seems easy to catch people now with everything being on a computer and like dipshit Alabama baseball coach that got caught betting in Cincinnati on a dude, what an idiot. You worked
there. He showed the person the teller. Look, no, I'm friends with the Alabama head coach. He's telling me to do this.
For a coach to do that or to even put it at risk is so much crazier than a player. Because like the coach, it's like, dude, you worked your entire career for this. And this is one thing that a player in this era, sure. I'm sure you can go overseas and find a team and even in Taiwan that you can make like a good living and have a nice apartment in Taiwan playing basketball. But like a coach, you can't be giving out information and compromising betting.
Yeah.
You worked your whole life for this dude and it's gone now.
No, that story is one of the best stories ever. Like as far as like when you load up Twitter or whatever your news sources every day, when you see a story like that, you're like, this can't be real, right? It just can't be real, right? And then you're like, it's real. How can you be so stupid? So it's an all timer. That one's an all timer, and with good reason, I think. But I once again though, I still think people are naive to not think. I mean, there's a lot that I would assume, and I know we don't know all of it, but there's certain ones that mobsters have claimed that you'll look at if you look into. Ronnie Harmon, Iowa Hawkeyes, Rose Bowl, I think 87. 3 fumbles for a running back in a game.
It's
just saying.
That's tough. It,
Drop touchdown pass to win the game. Just saying. They're, and you know damn well there's more than that out there. The stories haven't broke, especially if we've got this many this quick. Whether it's the Alabama thing, whether it was last year's college basketball, whether it's this year's college basketball, you know what I mean? Whether it's Sorsby at Texas Tech betting on his own team, or when he was at Indiana. But yeah, you know it's been going on prior to the legalization, Hunter Deckers or whatever at Iowa State. But yeah.
Hunter Deckers now backup Houston Gamblers quarterback. Oh my God, dude. I never put that together that he plays for the Houston Gamblers right now. How is that not?
Like, let's get that should be the face of the league. That should be their DraftKings commercial.
Did you see that the Gamblers just signed John Reese Plumlee like for some extra quarterback depth?
And I like that get, by the way, but will any of them have the courage to use him the way he should be used?
No, because if they did, like, we'd be seeing a few. The only team that I think has like those kind of balls is the Aviators, where like the Aviators are playing exactly the kind of offense that they should be playing. Perfect. And the only reason they didn't win against I think it was.
Well, they won this week, but
I think it was the Gamblers 2 weeks ago. They lost 17-13.
Yeah.
And it's just like they just bungled away like some goal line like opportunities, and like they
missed a field goal too. Yeah.
So, all right, like because I'd like to talk about some UFL stuff, but real quick, so that we give you enough time here. They announced that they're moving forward with a 76-team NCAA tournament, and Colby, like, take like any of Kentucky's tournament losses and like whatever, that's fine. There will be another year. The sun will shine again. But this actually is heartbreaking. Like this is the incarnate of true pure evil on earth, to take something that was perfect and corrupt it for like the purposes we know they're doing it for. It is the most pure and phenomenal sporting event in the entire world of sports, and they made it worse on purpose because it would financially benefit some people. Look, do what you got to do for your bank account, but there's a very special spot in hell reserved for the people that made this come to fruition.
I mean, you're speaking like I would be saying it. Yeah, I mean, no one. I don't think I've met one person in my life that, and I'm telling you, we do meet and greets. I'm not trying to say I'm fucking out there everywhere, but I'm saying we do meet and greets for our show. And it's like, I've never once sat there with a college basketball fan, not even a college basketball fan, like just everyday people down at the pool hall or whatever the fuck, right? Like I've never heard one, like most of my interactions in life, not involving my son or wife, is pretty much sports related.
Yeah.
Right. Like it's like you're hanging out with your buddies, right? You're talking sports, or you're texting in a group text sports, or you go hang out at the bar and you have a beer and talk sports with your buddies or a stranger, right? Like how many times at the airport you sit at a bar and you end up talking about basketball or football or baseball or something for an hour, right? While you're waiting on your flight. So I have never met one person that has said, you know what? I think we got to expand this. I think it makes more sense to expand this. I have seen, what's the guy, Seth, is it Seth Davis? Seth?
Oh yeah. That
yeah. Why am I drawing a blank on his last name? Anyway, the guy that loves Duke, that went to Duke, that didn't play at Duke, who's on CBS. He's the only guy I've seen tweeted out that, hey, it makes more sense to do this. But I still don't believe that was his true feelings. I think like that's
he's
like,
a shill. He's
yeah,
an absolute shill, dude.
it's a crime, dude. This is one where, and I wonder, Brady, like when do we hit the iceberg? Because so many times, if you use this analogy with like companies, there's a point of no return at some point. There's a point where the world changes, right? Whether you want to use I don't have one off the top of my head of a company, but I guess Blockbuster Video or something, right? Where they had the offer to buy Netflix, right? Or you wonder at what point does this change, and does it do damage for the youth? And the world does change. A lot of people thought Major League Baseball would be America's #1 sport forever. Guess what? The world changed, right? So I wonder, yes, I think their ratings for the short term will be fine, but you wonder about the next generation coming up. Will they be as attractive to a tournament with 76 fucking teams? And then the blatant lies of like, oh, we're doing this for the mid majors, get more good schools in.
Bullshit.
Stop. It's disgusting. This one, I never thought this would be possible. I actually thought the public pushback would win, and it did not. So we're at a new precedent. It's like the big, like USC and all those other teams joining the Big Ten was the first of like, this can't be real. This can't be real. Right? And then it was like Stanford and Cal joining the ACC. And you're like, this can't be real. This can't be real. But this one is even more outrageous than those ones. So I'm at a loss for words, really. It's just like, no one wants this. I'm sure the ratings will be fine, at least in the short term, but the world changes. And I do worry, did you fuck up something that we have a pretty big sample size of that one being awesome, and you never know.
And
anyway.
Unfortunately, it makes me wonder about, because look, like I said earlier, I try to gracefully go into me being older and things changing. Like I try to accept a lot of things that I like know are not going to be any different. Like I don't want at like before 30 years old, I don't want to be like everything that I ever loved before is going to suck forever. Um, but I wonder what the future is, and I think that it was actually a bit like it's actually a bit delusional or a bit naive, I guess is a better term, to have expected the NCAA to have survived forever. Very few things survive forever. This has actually been a huge period of stability over these last handful of decades in sports overall. Like we've taken for granted that like the NBA is the biggest basketball league and the NHL is the biggest hockey league. Like, dude, like if you for real make enough bad decisions, a lot of things can be different that you always took for granted would never change. So I don't know what the future of those things are. It's hard to imagine like the next 40 years of my life being a college basketball fan, doing this every single year. Like immediately after the month of March, be like, all right, we got this guy from Yugoslavia, we got this guy from Marshall. Like, they're paying. All right, our budget this year's $25 million. Oh my God, I remember back in my day it was only 20 million. Like, there's no way this goes on forever. It can't.
Yeah, you would think that the iceberg's got to be somewhere out there, right? It's got to hit at some point. But I mean, I don't know. Hopefully, I can get if I'm in my 40s. Hopefully, I can ride out another 40 years and then kick the bucket and leave it all. But leave it all behind. But I mean, I find it. It's just I've never seen something that was so unified by the public. Get ignored. You know what I mean? Like it was so unified. Like, I mean, think about this day and age politically or whatever, like you can honestly, there's an argument for everything. And then there's this where it's like, this is the one thing that I feel like every person in America agrees on.
It was like the inverse of marijuana. Like marijuana, everybody was just like, we'd like that. And eventually they were like, okay. And with the NCAA tournament expanding, people were like, we don't want that. And eventually they were like, we're going to do it anyway.
It really is. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Check us out. We're gonna do it anyway.
Oh, shit. So for the last few minutes here, to transition, because we've covered quite a wide base of philosophical topics in college sports. And just on some UFL points, with Mike Repole, I think in spring football, if you can take 2 steps forward and 1 step backward over a period of a few years, you're still moving more forward than a lot of other spring leagues were. Now whether they have accomplished that, I think remains to be seen. I have to see but his inclination at first to go towards MLS stadiums, I thought was like, finally, dude, like
I've only been saying this at a microphone for 5 years.
the
but,
obvious thing to do. This year, playing some games on weekdays, I think is a brilliant move. So I don't know if you saw today the Stallions in the Storm game.
I did.
Isn't it hilarious that you put Dorian Thompson-Robinson on the Stallions and immediately he puts them on his shoulders and carries them to like what was a good performance by him last week, but it was still week 1 with a new team. But this week it was like, Jesus Christ, that guy is like Anthony McFarland with the Brahmas. Just you look at him and it's like he's so much better than so many of the other players in this league.
Yeah, Bryce Perkins in the USFL with the Michigan Panthers too. Like, that's a big problem, and I think that has to deal with, in my opinion, you have too many coaches that aren't qualified to be coaches, in my opinion. That one of the things where I thought they've been a nightmare of a spring league, to tell you the truth. I'm wishing the best because I want football year round. I've argued for this for my whole life since the OG USFL in the 80s. But I just think, honestly, the irony is hilarious here because, like, I believe this is the worst one, but it is somehow they're coming back next year and they're expanding. I don't know how they're doing this. I guess having a network in a time where live sports, I think, maybe get more value than people or are more valuable than maybe what people realize with the gambling and everything. And so maybe that's how Fox is okay with this, but. I don't know how you have the best players sitting on the bench so consistently. Like, I know I watch a lot of football, and I think I probably watch more than Rapoli or whatever if I had to bet. But it doesn't take a rocket scientist to sit there and say, "Oh, who the fuck is that? He is really good, right?" I mean, and this league more than the others, in my opinion, has missed on this a lot. Like substantially, a large amount of like them just missing. Now, at least they were. I hate the fact that he plays God and he's the general manager for all these teams. I think it ruins the integrity of the overall product. But at least in this scenario, we get to see Dorian Thompson-Robinson, who is the best player in the league. You know what I mean? Like, dude, the fact that.
I wrote my preseason like UFL write up, like doing a whole preview of every team and everything and the futures picks. And my pick for MVP was Dorian Thompson-Robinson because I thought like, dude, like Jack Plummer is an amazing QB2 to have in this league because Jack Plummer, you know, whatever you think about him, he is lawn chair as hell, but he has had a good season so far. He had a good game today even, but the idea that he was going to be starting over Dorian Thompson-Robinson was like, ain't no way. There's no way that's going to happen.
I couldn't look, and I don't have anything against Jack Plummer either, man. Like, best wishes on your career. I don't think you're a bad player, but that's been a huge problem in the league, dude. I like, it's been a gigantic problem in this league going back to the XFL ever since really Dwayne Johnson has gotten behind it. That and their public relations, I can't think of a worse. Just and like I said, I hope it makes it. But whether it was the Michigan Panthers having home games back-to-back years in the playoffs where they should be hosting, And then there was a high school graduation or a community college graduation booked at the Ford Field that weekend. And then you had another year to correct that problem. And you go down the same exact path. And then they have to play an away game. It ruins the integrity of the game. What was the whole regular season for? It was so that they would have a home game and not have to go on the road, right? I mean, this league can't get out of their way sometimes, man. And that's why it makes me like, I love year-round football so much that I still tune in, even though this league has really done itself to like, I didn't think it was possible to be ran this poorly, in my opinion. Now, to Rapoli, he's only been there a few months, to his credit, and he did get the games in NFL or in MLS stadiums, which was Captain fucking obvious, by the way, right? Like, okay, let's not play at a stadium that seats 70,000 people, right?
Like that took so long for people to get on board with, and I don't know why. Like
it costs more. It doesn't make any sense.
They were talking when they put out like a story about the cost that it was to have Ford Field opened every time. I was like, "You've got to be shitting me! There's no way."
Who made this deal?
Like, there's no way you did that voluntarily. I mean, it was like with the Louisville Kings this year. It's like they've signed former 1,000-yard NFL rusher James Robinson like twice, and it's like you've seen him on the field like 7 times. It's because
they haven't hired good coaches, though, is my point. And I don't mean to step on you. I don't mean to step on you. But when you hire, it's like, dude, we have SGPN. If you're not familiar with my work, Sports Gambling Podcast Network, sportsgamblingpodcast.com. We've worked at this thing since 2011. Now, if I were to go put my mother on the microphone to talk college basketball, she'd be terrible, right? I love my mother, but she'd be terrible, right? That's a similar analogy of just saying, hey, guess what? Ted Ginn played football. He's going to be able to coach this team. Well, what do you mean? He has no coaching experience. Who cares? Right? That is cutting corners to me. And that's what I mean. Poorly ran. Ricky Prohl. And I'll even say Anthony Beck. I don't think Anthony Beck was qualified. Now, he got to the championship, but once again, they had the biggest home edge, and the league was cooking the books for them with all these trades. Like, I don't even have anything against these guys. Like, if I met Ted Ginn was a great player. Anthony Beck was a great player. It's just, there's other guys that are available that are worthy, that have worked their ass off at being a position coach, then a coordinator or a GA, and they're going to be able to be better, and your presentation will be better. Because they're going to sit there and say, guess what? We should start Dorian Thompson-Robinson. He's better.
It makes me think that, like, it sounds snobby to say this, but it's like, it makes me think these people don't watch football, or at least as much like of a well-rounded like amount of football as I am, at least, because dude, you'll get a better product if you hire a D2 coach who's taken 2 teams to the Division II, semifinals. You'll get a better product on the field by having those people as coaches. To not do that, to do the thing of like Ted Ginn Jr., of Chris Redmond, it's like that is lazy thinking. That is just, this guy to this city, they'll like that, right? And it's like, dude, you're gonna get a worse product on the field in total when you have people who,
and they won't like that. The fans won't like that. The viewers, us. I mean, that's it. It tells me you're cutting corners.
I'm not knocking any of those people. I'm not saying that like they couldn't be a coach. The thing is, a lot of great coaches, or at least a lot of good coaches, they've been coaches at a certain level for 20 years, like at different places. Yeah. It's not insulting to say that somebody can't do that what somebody took 20 years to learn how to do the first year they ever tried it.
100%. And like, I sometimes I have to take a step back and realize people are not me, where I'm a football maniac and I've watched all these spring leagues my whole life. Even now, I love football so much, I will have like an old spring game on sometimes. Like one from fucking 1989 or one from 2006 or something, right? So like, I get it but I do believe with hands down, this is the worst spring league, and I think a lot of it is because of that. Like okay, if you were to look at the previous leagues, like take the AAF that was there for a little bit. They had Steve Spurrier and Dennis Erickson and just really good football coaches, right? That would be really good at any level, I think, even in the NFL, right? Like, I mean, Spurrier, I guess, failed, but I think he was ahead of his time. I think he'd be more relevant now, the way the game is played. But my point is that these guys have been in their profession so long. You can go to the first version of the second version of the USFL, whether you had Mike Riley and Skip Holtz and stuff, and I thought the product was better. The original USFL obviously had a ton of great coaching in it and cutting it. The World League in 1991 had Mouse Davis and a bunch of you had real coaches, innovation going on within the sport because they went and hired and paid. Now you could argue that, hey, those leagues didn't make it maybe because you paid the coaches too much, but you can't just phone this in because the product does show. It shows. This is like watching a B-list action movie, in my opinion. We're still gonna watch it because it's explosions and shit, but you're getting a B-list action movie because you're not paying for the good special effects and whatever. The Rock should know. She should know this, right? Because he's in Hollywood. But yeah, it's been really poorly done, though, in my opinion. And I knew this coming into the year. That's the worst part about it. When I previewed the season, I go, wait a second here. So AJ McCarron has no chops to be a coach. Maybe eventually down the road, right? But he was in the league last year, right? He has never been anything of a coach. Short of Neuheisel, and I guess you could give a little credit to Beck because he's done it for so many years now. It's like he's got to be getting better at this, right? But really just Neuheisel and I guess Sumlin a little bit, even though he's been kind of having tough go arounds wherever he's been lately. But it screamed to me cheap from the start, and I believe the product has shown for that with great players being backups. I mean, there's a bunch.
And with coaches, it's like in the UFC when a fighter is there and all the guys they beat before they got to the UFC, it was like in a Poland regional league and all their opponents were 0-16. But then they come into the UFC and they get 3 straight knockouts. And I'm like, all right, guess the dude belongs here. So Anthony Beck, that's a dude that at the very least, I don't know how he could coach at college. I don't know how he could coach in the NFL, but he seems to be pretty good at coaching spring football, for what he's accomplished. Shannon Harris,
I think he's gotten better each year too.
Yeah.
Which is only human nature, right?
Yeah. It's not crazy that people need time to get better at a job. And I mean, now the DC Defenders, their coaching lineage is full of great coaches, and it shows. They've been a high quality franchise for, their entire existence.
Well, and all those guys, all their coaches, have they have that track record. I mean, Shannon Harris, who won the championship with them a year ago, this is a former head coach at Virginia State. You know what I mean? He's been coaching since 2003. Right. So, I mean, once again, there's a ton of these out there. I cover D2 college football. I cover FCS. I cover D3. The NAIA's got guys that have been coaching for over a decade. They're all available for this. That's why, to me, it was like, hey, they're going for the sexy name, right? They're going for the sexy name because guess what? Ted Ginn is a fucking legend in Columbus, Ohio. Instead of thinking, hey, Ohio knows good football, and if we supply them with good football, they're probably going to like the good football, which I think is the way you should be approaching this. No disrespect to Ted Ginn. Maybe he ends up a good coach down the road, but I don't think he was qualified for it this year.
In the state of Ohio, from what I know about the state of Ohio, and it'd be the same for Kentucky and basketball, you'd be better off hiring a local high school coaching legend as the Aviators coach than Ted Ginn. Because also, dude, nobody likes to see a former star fail at their job. And that's what a lot of them end up doing.
Yeah.
That's what a lot of them end up doing. And it's kind of It's a touchy subject for Kentucky fans right now, but like it's like hiring a former player as your coach. Like you're taking a very big risk that this works out. Because if it doesn't, like it's a whole lot messier and emotionally complicated for all the people involved.
Scott Frost, Exhibit A. Yeah, you're 100% right, man. But I hope the league makes it. You know, they said they're expanding. This is another thing though that has me paranoid. Is I'm like they're going to expand, and I was like, in my opinion, I when they originally merged with the USFL, the XFL, and USFL, I was thinking, awesome, 16 teams. Hopefully, one side would have their own, and the other side would have their own to help the competitive balance, right? Like the AFC and NFC, right? Or the AFL and the NFL, right? But that's the one thing that I still say, like, say you're an Arlington fan or Dallas, whatever their city is right now. It changes. They're like 10 minutes apart, but they keep changing this. But Luis Perez has played really well for you. You trade him for a backup that has barely played. If I'm a season ticket holder, I'm saying, what the fuck? You know what I mean? Like you gotta have. I understand that you can't get independent ownership right now, right? But you still should appoint, almost like a fantasy football league. If I am in charge of Fox and this is my product, I'll say, okay, well, guess what? We're going to appoint people. And I don't care if you got to have behind closed doors a jackpot between them. But I'd say Brady is the owner of the DC Defenders or, you know, the general manager. And, you know, because since we own it all, you should have them for, and then for each team. And then guess what? That will drive at least a little bit of competitiveness. But just sitting there playing God and making these trades, like Birmingham cuts the all first team D lineman and he goes to the Aviators. I don't believe that. All right, like I don't believe it. You're lying to me. I don't believe like you woke up and say let's cut our best player.
Right? Done it with the playoff venues too, where I mean, like the thing you mentioned before with the Panthers, but also like when they were like, "Oh, the championship game is going to be in St. Louis." Me and my brother went to it in St. Louis this last year, and the crowd was like hilariously, shockingly bad when we were there. So they gambled on the Battlehawks a couple times to make it to the championship game and they lost. So this year they said, "All right, we're gonna have it at Audi Field." This is like, oh,
it's like 2.0.
This decision wasn't at all motivated by the fact that the Defenders look like they mow through every team in the league.
At least it's a smaller stadium, though, right?
Yeah, if it goes back, but like I mean, one, it's hard to imagine the Defenders not making it to the championship game, but anything can happen, obviously. But I think that they'd maybe show out maybe a little bit more than maybe St. Louis did. I don't know what I base that off of, but like, it's just funny that this time around they were like, okay, we're gonna have the championship game at Audi Field. It's like, yeah, then like, yeah, if you won exactly what if you want your best team to have a home game advantage in the championship game.
What happened? Why not just do it at Tom Benson Hall of Fame Stadium like they were doing? Like that.
I said this the other day, like because people, as crazy as this sounds, like people can base a little bit more. Like when you have tickets to the UFL championship game at Hall of Fame Stadium in Canton, Ohio. You can kind of like make it a little bit more of like a weekend.
Yes,
like,
yes. Guess what? I've never been to the Pro Football Hall of Fame. Let's go, right? Like, or I've been. I can't wait to show it to my brother or my best friend. It's really. This is what I mean, though. It's like these things. I don't think.
And Tom Benson's perfect size too for it.
Yes. I mean, from the start, playing in these gigantic stadiums was about the most idiotic thing I've ever heard of. Like, it's like this. What are you thinking? Unless you're getting it for free, unless they're giving it to you for free, I cannot make a case for why. And going back to like some of the other leagues, that was one of their biggest shortcomings. Was like you're renting giant stadium. What are you doing? What are you doing?
Was it that just like teat suckling like, oh, we just want to be at the real stadium. Like, is that what that was? Like, was it a snobby thing? Like, you don't want to play at Central Michigan's like stadium, or you don't want.
There's nothing wrong. Like to me, if anything, that makes it. Why is Cameron Indoor awesome? Right? obviously Duke's winning games, but also it's a super small gym. It doesn't ever matter about the size of the venue. Like I truly believe that it
And
does not ever.
especially when if you go end up branching out a little bit and like you base your venue in a like smaller community,
Yeah,
it's like, dude, I love spring football, and guess what? The UFL still has to compete with my attention on the weekends. It's not easy to make that
yeah.
work. So if you're offering yourself up as entertainment on a Saturday night, it is a lot easier to appeal to people in Saginaw, Michigan than it is in Detroit, Michigan.
100%, man. 100%. And but it's crazy that they haven't thought of this prior. This is what I mean is I think the league, I can't believe it's coming back next year. And I don't want it to go away, but it kind of deserves to based on the history that they've shown us. Like if anything, like the AAF and the UFL or the USFL 2.0, like were so much better ran to me. Like it was just better ran. I believed in the integrity of the product more. Whereas this one, it's got to sort these things out. But maybe Rapoli's the right man. I don't want to. I mean, I talk a lot of shit on my show jokingly, but that's what we're supposed to do. But I hope it works out because spring football should happen regardless. Like I do believe that's part of the reason why I think these leagues, if you play at smaller venues or get venues for free, because I do believe some would actually give you that. Maybe you have to pay for insurance or something, but then the leagues, that's their best chance to succeed, but it should have been succeeding anyway. Americans love football. I refuse to believe that, these other sports where like, you see the ratings and it's like 700,000. You're like, even back to the AAF, I was like, man, they're getting like 1.3 million views. How is there not a world for this? Like,
I mean, I can tell you, I just came from the Kentucky Barrels AF1 game earlier this afternoon, and I went to a San Diego Strike Force game, IFL, when I was out there for a work conference, and it's like, it's hard to like stay afloat as arena teams, but I love the way because and we don't have enough time for me to make a point of the pros and cons of arena and indoor football because I know you have your list of those different qualities as well. But at the very least, I love the business of arena football. I love the markets that it serves. I love the purpose behind like I'm fascinated by the business aspects of arena football and semi-pro football. Colby, I saw like a live stream last night for the Idaho Contact Football League. It was like a semi-pro league streaming live on YouTube, and it was like just in the state of Idaho. I was like, the World of Football, the Continental Football League is coming back this summer. So that's going to be an off-season league that plays outdoors, and it's made up of some historic like outdoor and semi-pro teams. It's a wide world of interesting football. There's a lot, and the UFL somehow has become the least interesting of all of them. It's
you're
but
right.
it's like here's the thing: it's the most financially secure time it seems for spring football in a bit. But the cost of that has been its edge, and it like there was a flavor to even the XFL when it came, and it was like the Brahmas had Jack Cohn and like there was a flavor to the XFL even then and the flavor has just slowly gone more saltine like as we're going on. I think that's what people things could be perfect with the UFL and I think people would still feel that because that feeling is a little bit gone.
100%, man. I think that hit the nail on the head there. And I wasn't sure when you were saying indoor football, were you talking NFL or were you talking indoor football league?
Indoor football league. Dude, and if that's the rules you're going by, indoor and arena, it's much better than the Cleveland Browns playing inside from now on. That did that.
Should,
I'm disgusted by Paul Brown Stadium being called Paycor Stadium. I can't imagine what a purist in the city of Cleveland feels like right now.
the Bears are next. And I mean, if you know anything about George Hallis, who started the NFL, get that. He was very anti playing football indoors. So John Madden, another one. So I mean, I'm not taking a shot at the IFL or arena. To me, those are kind of different sports to me. But I do have a major problem with the NFL's one doing that. But yeah, I mean the UFL. You're right though. Its deterioration has been, it's to me, like I said, if you ask me to power rank all of these spring leagues in my lifetime, without question, it would be dead last. But I don't say that with pride because I want it to win. I want it to work.
Well, Colby, I know you got a show to do at 10, so I'll let you get out of here. But folks, this has been another interlude episode of the Tap That Podcast. Follow me on Twitter at RotoBrady. Follow me on Instagram at RotoBrady MMA. The podcast at Tap That MMA Podcast on YouTube and Spotify. With me tonight has been Colby Dant of the College Basketball Experience, the College Football Experience, the UFL Gambling Podcast, the Sports Gambling Podcast Network. Always love having Colby on. And Colby, thank you so much for coming back on. This is always a blast when you come on. Anything else that you want to say before we get going?
No, let's go spring football. And Brady, I always appreciate you, man. And it's always cool chopping it up with you, man. I enjoy our conversations. And shout out to, by the way, don't think they're going to stop at 76.
No, 94.
Give it a decade. Give it a decade. We'll be at 96 or some shit like that.
You ended it on the darkest note possible. Shit, like,
that's why they pay me the big bucks, right?
Folks, thank you so much for listening. Have a great week and peace.